So Dr. Shan Hussain, welcome to the podcast and videocast. Thank you for joining me.
Hi Jay, great to be on the show. Heard a lot about your work and very happy to be here.
Yeah, my followers have been so excited with this episode in a way that, even though what's happening with the coronavirus, and I really wanted to sit down and talk to a doctor and just basically talk about your thoughts, because there's so much commentary going on social media. And sometimes, I like to speak to who do I know in the field that can give their thoughts, not medical opinions and that stuff, because there's experts. I'm sure there's experts on experts. It's more a case of, what is your thoughts, and have a conversation like we do anyway. You graduated in 1999 from the Imperial College of Medicine, basically, that right? And so 20 years in the field, so you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I've been a GP for 13 years, and I have to say I have not seen anything like this. I don't think any of us have in living memory. This is certainly, appears to be very serious, and we're getting media coverage which is pretty much 24/7. And yes, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, right now who are spreading misinformation and myth-truth about coronavirus and the seriousness of it. And I think it's really our responsibility to get the truth out there, get the facts out there right now.
Yeah, and I think, if you think about, obviously, I'm 40 years, so we've been through a few things where the social media, I think this is probably the first time, we've never seen anything like this before anyway, but I think social media, in let's say, for example, a big event, this is probably where social media is now coming to play. Like 9/11, there wasn't that much there. Do you know what I mean? Prior recession. So I think it's really important. You're right. I've got so many questions that I just want to ask you. It's gone crazy. And I've had to select which ones I can ask, because as you can see, when you get so much information out there, the experts the one to kind of speak to. I'm sure you're finding that now with yourself.
Yes, I think going back to what you said about social media, one of my concerns around its use at the moment is that if we have an underlying narrative and we see a post that seems to support that, it's very easy to share it without really fact-checking it or thinking about it first. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that. And so, one of the things I would want to encourage people to do is to, just because they see something on social media, let's have a think about it, look at the sources, look at the facts before going around and share it, because that kind of misinformation can be serious.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to start, I know there's a lot, what is coronavirus? Because a lot of people don't understand actually what it is. So in your knowledge and the way you can describe it so my listeners and viewers can understand it, what is coronavirus?
Okay, so it's a form of flu virus. And the only difference between this and our regular seasonal flu, firstly, two things, is that there's no actual treatment for it as such, and there's no vaccination. And the big thing right now we're finding is that it's spreading a lot quicker, in that people can walk around and have it and be giving it to others without even realizing they've got it. And that sort of asymptomatic transmission can go on for about 2 to 3 weeks in some cases. So my concern is how quickly it's spreading without people even knowing they've got it. And the other thing to point out is that most people who'll get it will actually have mild to moderate symptoms and they'll fight it off. But it's those that we should concern ourselves about, the at-risk groups, the elderly, pregnant women, those with chronic disease, those with compromised immune systems. They're the ones who we need to try and protect. And that's why these public health measures have now been put into place. I should also point out that everything I'm saying today is accurate as of the 18th of March, 2020. Information is evolving and guidelines are changing all the time. So, do keep yourself up to speed as to what is important in your particular area.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the scary thing is the compounding effect of how it's growing. I think I think as we came on, and this is again from today, it's 200,000 now infected people, and I think it was 8,009 deaths. And in real terms, obviously people say there's more people dying of other causes, but if you look at how it's grown since late December, you start seeing, wow, that's a big increase, and if it compounds, and I suppose that's the worry with the health and the government. That's why they're making these measures.
Yes, I mean, it's almost exponential, the spread of this right now, and we've really got to do everything we can reasonably do to help to reduce this, and I think that's why we've got these current guidelines in place, which I think are enough at the moment. Some might argue that they're not quite going far enough. I think that one of the things that I'm really wanting to emphasize is encouraging people not to panic about this. I'm actually very, very calm about this personally, because I'm doing everything that I reasonably can. So beyond that, it's really down to fate, I suppose, or whether you believe in fate or not. If I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. So long as I'm stacking the odds in my favor, and that's what I urge you and your listeners to do, just to do everything that you reasonably can to protect yourself without allowing this to create anxiety or panic or undue stress, because that's not going to do your health any good at all.
No, because a lot of the illness is linked to that, anxiety, stress, and all them kind of things. So would you, because a lot of people, one of the questions was, what's the difference between having normal flu, like what many of us go through anyway, millions and millions of people, and this new virus? So why is there so much media or general panic around this if it is just like the seasonal flu? Because many people die, I think it's maybe 500,000 around the world that die from seasonal flu. So why is there so much attention given to this, seeing that so many people will recover?
Yeah, I think it's because of the actual mortality rates. If you compare them to seasonal flu, the actual rate is about tenfold, which is worrying. In terms of the symptoms, as far as individuals go, many of them may well feel that it's actually not terribly different to seasonal flu, but a lot of people I'm hearing that I know who've personally got this are saying it's actually a lot worse. It's pretty devastating. People feeling physically exhausted, headaches, general aches and pains, coughs and fevers, and barely able to move, some of them. But the good thing is many of them are recovering, just with the important things that we need to do in such situations: plenty of rest, fluids, good amount of sleep, and good nutrition, and just taking care of yourself at home. Keep yourself wrapped up warm, and that will help the body to fight it off as best as it can.
Yeah. So touching on that, so if you do go through that, obviously not so nice experience of having it, are you immune to it? Because there's a lot of talk on social media. Once you get it, you're over it, then you can let everybody have it, and obviously then we'll get on with it. But if you've had it, is it a bit like, I don't know, can you get it again? Is there any evidence at the moment that says once you've got it, like the seasonal flu, you can get it the following year? Anything you've heard about that?
I don't think there's any evidence at the moment to really definitively say that. Whether this is going to be an annual thing or not, I certainly hope not. But at the moment, I think we're just managing it on a case-by-case and day-by-day basis, and just letting people, if they get it, just to take those sensible measures to help to contain it and allow their bodies to recover. In terms of being immune to it in the future, not entirely clear at the moment. I don't think there's enough sort of research to definitively say yes or no either way.
Yeah. And do you feel the spread, obviously, like, the way it's spreading and it's so contagious? Have we seen anything like this before? Have you seen in your medical practice anything like, because the spread is scary. That's the thing. Is it a new thing we've seen, or is there anything you can compare to?
Well, the only thing I can compare it to in my career is swine flu back in 2010, when I was a GP then as well, and I actually got it, which was probably the only time I've caught flu, and it was pretty horrific for a few days. I was exhausted, just no energy at all. That's the only thing I can compare it to in my career, and the big difference then was that we had Tamiflu, which worked against it, and we had swine flu vaccine, which they created very quickly and rolled out to GPs. We were giving that, I think, within a month or so.
Okay, quick.
To help to protect people. We don't have that with this, and also this seems to be spreading a lot quicker in terms of people not having symptoms, but actually having it can give it to others. We didn't have it. The duration of that time seems to be longer, in terms of up to 2 or 3 weeks in some cases. I don't think that was the case with swine flu. So that's the only thing I can really compare it to. But then, you're comparing apples and oranges there. This is something that I haven't seen before in my lifetime, and hopefully won't see again.
So yeah, so the comparison to swine flu is there, but not as, if you mentioned you got something within a month, they're saying, will we find something like a cure or something to fight it quickly? Because some people are saying 18 months. And obviously, as a business disruption, you can imagine in business, everyone's, now I'm having loads of conversation with mentoring clients, etc. is it going to be as long as we think it is, or like I said, will they find something soon, just like they did with swine flu?
I don't know for sure. I have heard that there have been people saying it's going to be 12 to 18 months. Who knows? What I do know is that I have friends who have associates working in America with this,
Yeah.
and they're working flat out. They're absolutely working their socks off just to find a vaccine for this. But even then, once they found it, they've got to go through the trial phase and the testing phase, and who knows how long that can take. With regular medications, that can take many months, sometimes even a year or two. So I'm not waiting on a vaccine. In terms of a cure, there is no cure, as there isn't a cure for the common cold or a flu either. It's about how we can fight it off, what we can do to protect ourselves, and once we've got it, if we get it, what we can do to help fight it off.
Yeah, and that's probably why the unknown speculation. And you're watching lots of other countries, such as obviously Italy and China and Singapore, and all these South Korean are using different types of strategies. Now, you're in the medical profession, you've got lots of friends in that area. One of the questions that was quite asked on my post recently was, why is the UK taking such a different view of how things are, materializing out with the shutdowns? And do you think, in your opinion, what medical people are saying at the moment, is it the right approach, or where are we with that at the moment?
Interesting question. I'm going to try and answer that without getting myself into trouble. In terms of whether or not we're taking the right approach, well, I mean, what is the right approach? We don't know how to define what the right approach is. Yeah. I think people are just looking at the best evidence that they have and taking advice from the top scientists that we have in this country and applying measures accordingly. I don't agree with everything that's being put out at the moment. For example, I feel that all people working in the healthcare profession should be tested. Yeah. And that's a controversial viewpoint at the moment, but that's my opinion, and I'm happy to back it up. Yeah. Simply because, if we've got people working in healthcare who don't know that they've got it, but are then treating other people, then they're giving it to other people. So that's something that I think does need to be rolled out. The other thing is, at the moment, the current guidelines, as I say, as accurate of the 18th of March 2020, is that if people have a persistent cough that's new, or a temperature of 37.8 or above, then they should be self-isolating for 7 days. You don't need to call your doctor. You can take advice from 111. This is for your UK audience, just to be clear. Or 111 online. But that you're not being tested. They're not testing you for it. They're just assuming that you've probably got it. And as a caveat to that, if you live in a household with other people, then it's not 7 days, it's 14 days, including the entire household. So no one should leave the house in that time, which, has a huge effect on, people's lives and professions and, as we're seeing, the economy now. But, that's the guideline we've been given. I can't really disagree with that, only I just feel that testing should be a little bit more widespread, and perhaps it will be by the time you release this podcast. I think with testing wise, I think that for businesses, being in a business podcast, is the disruptions causing at the moment. People can't send their stuff in, people can't come to work, and it'd be great to get more testing done so we know where we're at with this. But it's making a massive impact on businesses. But at the same time, it's a difficult one because your health is the most important thing, right? And if you neglect that, then obviously the business itself will fold anyway. So it's really important to do that. Do you think we're prepared for this? I mean, it just feels like this has come out of the blue, and everyone's now panic buying. You've seen obviously the social media stuff of people taking toilet roll. And even the other day I went to the supermarket, everything's gone now. Does that show that the people think we're not prepared, or are we not prepared with taking so many cases all in one go? Well, I don't think we could ever be fully prepared for something like this. But I think, in terms of the panic buying, it's easy to kind of, look down our noses at such people and almost mock them. But in essence, that's a reflection of how fearful people are. The message I want to give is that fear is not serving you. It's not helping you at all. It's actually, probably lowering your reserve in your constitution to potentially fight this off. As far as panic buying goes, you know, I was just got back from the supermarket now, and they're all out of bread, which really surprised me because you know, we're actually quite a small neighborhood, but they were completely sold out. Yes, so there's a lot of that. I mean, I'm not panic buying anything. I think if I was to only panic buy anything, it would be frozen vegetables, just to make sure that, you know, we're, as a family, we're getting good nutrition within us, and we're managing to take care of ourselves. But yes, I mean, like I say, you can't really 100% perfectly prepare for this. We've just got to do the best we can, and I think we are seeing that. You know, the healthcare profession that I'm coming into contact with every day, they're working unbelievably hard right now. You know, general practice is really rushed off its feet. It's already very busy, as we've lost so many doctors over the last 5 years. And hospital care is just unbelievable how hard they're working right now. So, you know, it really does kind of make you proud to be part of a strong profession, and I think it's great that we have this resource to our hand.
Yeah, very lucky. And is there, you know, the medical professionals, are they upbeat about this? Are they positive that we're going to get through this? Is there anything you're hearing from the medical professionals, or, you know, because you said they're great. Actually, I know many doctors myself, and, you know, they're one of the guys who just get on the front line without even thinking about it and risking their lives sometimes. And how are they feeling? How's the morale at the moment?
Well, in my practice, it's actually very good. We're kind of coming together and looking after each other, and, you know, in these situations of, you know, we do find that with a lot of adversity, we kind of come together much better, and we're also seeing that across communities as well. People coming together and wanting to help others out. I don't mean literally coming together, but actually making themselves available to help people who are struggling to, you know, get supplies if they've been advised to self-isolate. But yes, in our practice, it's extremely busy. We are doing our best to reduce the actual face-to-face consultations. So about 80% of my consultations yesterday were telephone, and it went very well, but it was a long day. And yes, I think we need to get ready for some more long days going ahead.
Yeah. I appreciate your time, but I know you're really busy, and thank you for joining us. So with regards to health, I know we can talk about the virus. A lot of it's unknown. So even if you ask the top medical people that are fighting this head on, it's difficult because people want the answer straight away, but it's difficult to say that when the testing's done. But, you know, for health, you know, I know you're big on health, and we'll share your podcast at the end and people can follow you. But, you know, what can we do? You mentioned looking after yourself. Is there any kind of things we can eat, for, you know, that we can help? One of the questions was, what can we eat to get through this? So if we do get it, what kind of stuff can we have? You know, is it, do we need to eat certain types of food?
Yes, absolutely. I think if anyone gets it or gets symptoms of it, the most important things are obviously self-isolate, plenty of rest, lots of sleep, lots of fluids, keep yourself warm. But in addition to that, you're absolutely right. Good nutrition is a key part of helping people recover from this, and getting, you know, those good quality macronutrients that will help to support our body and fight off infections through foods, through whole foods, rather than through supplements. I don't think there's a huge amount of evidence to support supplements in such situations, but nonetheless, if people want to do that, that's fine. But yes, getting things that we know to be real food. I'm very sort of passionate about talking about healthy nutrition, and I think there's probably no more important time to do that when the body is weak or sick.
Yeah, is there any ones you can recommend? Any types of foods you can recommend?
You can't go too far wrong with vegetables, salads, fruits, nuts, seeds, legumes. And if you do eat meat, then obviously make sure that it's healthy cuts, and yeah, they would be the main things. That's and helpful. Lots of water to drink. Yeah, because they're saying that if your mouth's dry, you're more susceptible to get this stuff. So keep your hydration levels up and your mouth's not dry. So that's kind of stuff. Absolutely.
And here's what, you know, this is an interesting one, because obviously with health and stuff, fitness, you know, I go to a gym, you know, every day basically, and now the advice is don't go to an area where a lot of people are around. I mean, it's a difficult one because going to the gym is keeping yourself fit, active, and cardio, and etc. So where do you lie with that? Because should you go to the gym because the advice is it, or what's your thoughts around that? Without giving advice, but what's your own sort of thoughts around that? Should we avoid them kind of places for the time being?
Well, The recommendations there are to perhaps avoid places like the gym, but at the same time, you're right, we do need to get some sort of activity during the day. So it is actually safe to leave the house and go for a walk, so long as you're keeping a healthy social distance from other people, you're not physically touching people. And the advice is a 2-meter distance, which is the height of a regular door, just to give you a brief sort of comparison there. And yes, that is an important part of recovery, but obviously don't do that when you're just going through the early stages of the illness. We know when your body is physically knackered and you just can't bring yourself to do anything, that's the time that you should be actually focusing on rest and sleep and hydration.
So kind of an answer to that is basically just listen to your body. If you're feeling tired and you're feeling something coming on, like you would with a seasonal flu, then let your body rest and recover. Take the right nutrients and things that's going to help you recover, and that should make an impact, won't it, based on what it is. And touching on the health, so age. I just want to go quick on age. So does this coronavirus, is it, a lot of them say that it's more towards the older type of like 65, 70 plus. Me as a 41-year-old and obviously a bit younger, could we still have complications with this virus? Should we treat this really seriously and not just say, well, it's the older generation, not us, we'll just go about our normal days? That makes sense. Is there any, do we need to be concerned about this as well and take it a bit more seriously?
Absolutely we should, yes, because obviously if you think about our day-to-day lives, how often do we come in contact with elderly people?
That's true.
And are we potentially giving it to them without realizing it in an asymptomatic way? Because it can be devastating for them. And it's not just the elderly, it's, as I've said, the immunocompromised and pregnant women and those with chronic illness. So, people with heart disease, respiratory illnesses, diabetes, etc. Anyone who would normally get the seasonal flu vaccine would be in that sort of high risk category. And it's important that these precautions are really for us to help us protect them, because I think people like you and me, if we got it, we'd probably be okay. I mean, the recovery rate is well over 95%.
Yeah.
But it's not about you and me, it's about all of us. I think I read a stat today that 1.8 people have actually died from this illness. But then 1.8 to 63 million people in this country is still well over 1 million people.
Yes,
and we want to make sure that we're protecting everybody. So the way we do that is obviously make sure we're not making unnecessary physical contact, so handshaking, hugs and kisses. That's got to just go to one side, doing our best to avoid any travel or meetings, things like that. Just do your best to do those virtually, like you and I are now.
Yeah, we are.
And stay at home. But I mean, it's hard. Let's be honest.
Very hard,
You try telling someone that they can't kiss their child goodnight. That's a really tough thing to say.
Yeah.
And but it's at the same time it's very important.
It is, and to sort of come towards the end of this little session that we've done together, what would you say? Because time-wise, I mean, this has come out of the blue. From last year, we're doing all this distancing. I mean, when I'm talking to business owners, they all want to know, okay, when's this going to end? When can we get back onto it? How long? I know it's difficult to answer, but as much as we can not panic about it, in business we still need to operate. How long do you think we would be in this kind of stage? I know you can't put an actual figure. Have you guys any thoughts about it? Because we can't really go back to normal until this is kind of like we're on top of this, right? I mean, China seems to have gone back into potentially opening some Apple stores, etc. Do you think there'll be 3 or 4 months, or do you think this is a longer term where we're going to be having to watch this?
It really depends on how we contain it now, in terms of the advice that we're getting from the government and from NHS, and keeping that physical contact to an absolute minimum, keeping that 2-meter radius, and staying at home wherever possible. Make sure we're getting our news from trusted sources. That's a key thing I'd advise. And I think that's really going to determine how things go. I think the more cavalier we are about this, the longer it's going to last. So that's why I'm sort of urging people to take these precautions, and even if they're completely well and they feel absolutely fine, nonetheless, let's think about everyone. Let's think about our community, our family, as our friends, and do what we can to protect them.
So in a sense, what we're saying is basically you've got the advice from the government. If you need to self-isolate. By not doing that, what we're doing is actually making the problem stay longer with us, because
Potentially.
So it's all potential at the moment. But yeah, no, that's great. So look, I want to thank you for coming on, because I know you guys are really busy with the medicals, and I really wanted to get you on and just talk to you about the questions I'm getting asked. I get asked loads of questions, and I said, look, the best thing for me to do is have a chat with someone I know well, and obviously a general practitioner that knows this stuff, and give some kind of advice which is a bit more relative to the medical industry. But you do something yourself. You've got your own podcast as well. Do you want to share the podcast so people can obviously follow you and learn stuff about what you do as well?
Yeah, sure. My podcast is called Enduring Health. It's been around for about a year and a half now. It's doing all right. And we do talk about lots of natural things we can do to protect ourselves, much like we've been talking about today. And I do think that it's always better to look at these kind of proven lifestyle approaches rather than waiting on a new pharmaceutical product to come and bail us all out, because that can be too late. And in addition to that, I do want to say that, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, social media posts and everything, please get your information from trusted sources. So in the UK, it's www.nhs.uk. And obviously there's also www.gov.uk. And just be cautious about sharing stuff on social media, please. That's one of the really big things I would want to, because, inducing fear and panic is not going to help anybody at all. We've got to really act responsibly and make sure we're doing what we can to look after ourselves and each other. Yeah,
and also like denying it, pushing it, same things, just to get some attention. Because I'd shared a post on LinkedIn, and mine was very generic, plan, prepare, prioritize, follow the government website, and just put things in action. Don't listen to anything else saying X, Y, and Z. Think about yourself. And that's really good for you to share that. I'm sure everyone will follow that. And would you want to leave us with a positive note? Because you started by saying, you're doing what you do. Can you leave us some positive so the audience can look at that?
Gosh, I'm going to do my best to. It's a very difficult time. I think I'm just seeing and hearing so many stories of communities coming together and looking after each other. And it really is heartwarming to hear that, people leaving flyers around saying, look, I've heard you're not well. This is my number. If you need anything, or give me a call, let me know. Happy to talk. I'll drop something around. And I think these attitudes are really what get us through difficult times, and always have done historically. That's something that I'm really, really pleased to see and hear.
That's excellent. I want to thank you for coming on once again. I know you're really busy, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, and hopefully people will follow you now, and get the information right. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Jay. And good to talk to you again. It's been a little while. We should catch up sometime.
We will catch up. Thank you. Take care. So thank you for watching that video. If you want to see other videos and great guests, make sure you subscribe and like the video. So you can now head over to my website where you can see a bit of my story of building and scaling my businesses, and also all the free resources and tools which you can help you on your journey in your brand and your business. You can also subscribe on the podcast, so you can check on iTunes, Spotify, and other locations where you can find the podcast. And I look forward to catching you very soon. Thank you.